My wife cheated on me with my father and said he was more successful than me. I used to think the hardest part of marriage was deciding what to eat every night. Turns out the hardest part is realizing the person who says we are a team is quietly auditioning for a different one. I am 32. I work in IT. I make good money, not movie star money, but enough to pay rent on time and still buy the fancy coffee that pretends it is a personality trait. My wife Lena and I had been together 6 years, married for 4, and if you asked her, she would say we were building an empire. If you asked me, I would say we were building a life. Those sound similar until you notice one of them has spreadsheets and the other has Sunday mornings. Lena loved spreadsheets. She loved goals. She loved numbers. She loved reminding me that my father owned one of the biggest car sales companies in our region. She also loved asking the same question in different outfits. Why are we living like this when your dad is loaded? I would answer the same way every time. Because I want to earn what we have. Because I do not want favors. Because I do not want to be a man who has to say thank you for his own life. She would smile like I had just told her a joke. Then she would say I was being dramatic. Then she would say we could have a better apartment, better vacations, better friends. Like friends were sold at the same place as luxury handbags. I did not grow up poor. I grew up surrounded by money and the weird problems money brings. Like people laughing too hard at your dad's jokes, or strangers calling you buddy while calculating what you cost. I watched my older brother take the easy route. He joined the company, got the office, got the car, got the respect. I also watched how every argument in his marriage ended with, "My dad can fix this," and I wanted no part of it. So I took my laptop and my pride and built my career one certification at a time. My dad still invited us to every family thing. He was not a villain. He was charismatic. The kind of man who could sell a used car to someone who came in for an oil change. He liked being the center of the room. He liked being admired. And Lena, well, Lena liked being near whatever was shiny. Sometimes I told myself she liked me because I was shiny too. Young, ambitious, a guy with a plan. Other times I worried she liked my last name more than my first. But I loved her. And love is basically your brain wearing noise-canceling headphones. The first time I noticed something off was small. So small I almost missed it. Lena started dressing differently when we went to my dad's house. She always looked good, but this was like she was going to a photo shoot. She also started asking what time my dad would be home. Not what time dinner was, not what time we should arrive, but what time he would be there. I teased her about it. She laughed. Then she said I was insecure, and I hated that word because it was a trap. If you defend yourself, you sound insecure. If you do not, you feel like someone stole your tongue. The second thing was my dad started texting me more. Little check-ins. Hey son, how is work? Hey son, bring Lena by sometime. Hey son, I found that bottle of wine you like. None of it was suspicious on its own, but it felt like someone adding extra seasoning to a meal that was already fine. Then came the barbecue invite. A Saturday at my dad's place. Backyard, grill, the whole friendly family picture. My brother Mark would be there. His wife, too. I remember Lena being unusually cheerful that morning, humming while she got ready, asking me to iron my shirt. She never cared about my shirt. She cared about whether my salary kept up with her mood. We drove over with a bowl of salad like we were in a commercial. My dad met us at the door with a grin. He hugged me. Then he hugged Lena a beat longer, not long enough to call it out. Just long enough to make my stomach notice. I told myself I was imagining it, because what kind of person imagines anything gross about their own father? The backyard was full of that warm summer noise, clinking bottles, distant lawnmower. My dad making jokes. Mark talking about sales numbers like they were sports scores. Lena laughing at the right moments. She always laughed at my dad's jokes, even the bad ones, especially the bad ones. I tried to relax, I flipped burgers, I listened, I smiled. I even caught myself thinking maybe I had been too stubborn about money. Maybe I could accept a little help. Just a little. Then Lena leaned close and whispered, "You should ask him about that investment thing." She said it like a suggestion, but her nails were gently pressing my arm. I said no, and she rolled her eyes so hard I could almost hear it. After we ate, Mark and his wife went inside to check on dessert, My dad said he would grab more plates. Lena said she needed to use the restroom, and suddenly they both disappeared toward the house. I stayed outside watching the grill like it was my job title. 5 minutes went by, then 10, then 20. People drifted around. Music played. My brother came back out asking where Dad was. I shrugged. Lena still had not returned. My brain started doing that calm math it does right before panic. I walked inside, calling her name casually, like I was looking for someone who forgot their phone. No answer. I moved through the hallway. The house felt too quiet compared to the backyard. I heard a faint sound upstairs, like a floorboard shifting, and my feet started moving before my thoughts caught up. I climbed the stairs, each step louder than it should be. At the top, there was my dad's bedroom door, slightly pulled in, not shut, not open, like someone wanted privacy, but also wanted to pretend they did not. And right then, my whole body knew something. My mind did not want to know. My hand touched the door. I pushed it, and the world changed shape. I will not describe what I saw, because some images do not need details to ruin you. I saw enough to understand everything, enough to make my throat turn cold, enough to make my hands shake like I had just walked out of a storm. Lena turned her head. My dad froze, and I did not yell. I did not swing. I did not create a dramatic scene for anyone to retell at parties. I just slammed the door so hard the frame rattled, and I walked away, fast, down the stairs, through the hallway, past the guests, past the smell of grilled meat, past the music. My vision narrowed. My stomach lurched. I made it to the driveway, and I thought I might throw up. I stood there breathing like I had sprinted, even though I had not run. Then I got in my car, and I drove. Not back to the barbecue, not to some calm place, just away, because the only thing I knew was I could not be in that house another second. And while the road blurred past, my phone lit up with her name, calling again. Then a text. Where are you? Then another. Do not be childish. And that was the moment my shock turned into something sharper, something that had a plan, because if she could call me childish after that, then she had been practicing disrespect for a long time, and I had been too busy being proud to notice. I drove straight home, and I started packing like my life depended on speed. Because in a way it did. And before I left, I looked at our wedding photo on the shelf, and I realized I had been smiling at a stranger for 4 years. I took my keys, I took my laptop, I took only what was mine, and I walked out, not knowing yet that the next person I would call would change the entire game, and that my father was about to learn that betrayal does not always get loud. Sometimes it gets quiet, organized, and very expensive. I drove to my friend Ryan's place because he is the kind of friend who answers the phone like the world is on fire, even when you just want to complain about traffic. He opened the door in sweatpants, holding a bag of chips like a shield, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without asking questions. I walked in, sat on his couch, and for a full minute I just stared at his blank TV screen like it was about to explain my life to me. Then it came out in a messy rush. The barbecue, the stairs, the door, the split second where my brain tried to deny what my eyes already knew. Ryan did not interrupt. He did not hit me with motivational quotes. He just nodded slowly, like he was taking notes in his head. When I finished, he put the chips down and said, "Okay, first thing, you are not going back there tonight. Second thing, you are going to stop thinking this is just emotional, because this is also legal and financial, and the person who stays calm gets to write the ending." I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because it sounded like something from a movie. And Ryan said, "I am serious. You have a good heart. But right now, your heart is not the one filing paperwork." He asked if Lena had access to my accounts. I said we had a joint account for bills and separate accounts for everything else. He told me to freeze anything that could be drained without notice. Not as revenge, as protection. He said to change passwords, email, banking, cloud storage, anything that holds statements or tax documents. He told me to screenshot every financial record I could find, because memories do not hold up in court, but timestamps do. I felt sick hearing him talk like this, like my marriage was suddenly a broken contract. But there was something comforting about structure, like putting a splint on a bone you did not know was fractured. Then he said, "You need an attorney." "Not tomorrow, today." And I said it was late, and he said late is still today. I watched him pull out his phone and call someone like he had done this before, which made me stare at him, and he shrugged and said, "I have seen enough messy breakups to know one rule. The first person who gets proper advice sets the pace." And I hated that this was true. I hated that there was even a pace. My phone buzzed again, her name, and then my father. And that second one did something weird to me. Like my body wanted to shiver and laugh at the same time. I did not answer either. I put the phone face down like it was contaminated. Ryan's lawyer friend could not talk long but gave the basics. Do not move money in a way that looks like hiding. Do not send angry messages. Do not threaten. Do not admit anything unnecessary. Document what happened in a simple, factual way while it is fresh. And most importantly, do not let her bait you into looking unstable. I listened and nodded like I was in a meeting about software deployment. Except this time the system failing was me. After the call, Ryan handed me a notebook and said, "Write down the timeline. Just facts, dates, times, who was there, what you saw, what you did next." I stared at the blank page. My hand shook, and I wrote anyway. Because if I did not, my brain would keep replaying it like a broken video. I wrote about Lena humming in the morning, about my dad hugging her too long, about the half hour, about the door. I wrote that I slammed it and left, and even writing that made my stomach roll. Ryan offered me water, then said something that landed like a punch without the pain. He said, "I know you want to cut your dad out, but be careful. He has money and pride, and those two things together make people act like they are starring in their own drama." I told him my father would never try to hurt me financially, and Ryan just gave me the look. The one that says, "You just said you would never see your wife do this either." Then my phone buzzed again. A text from Lena. "You embarrassed me. Where are you? We need to talk." I almost laughed again. Embarrassed her. Like I had spilled soda on her shoes. Ryan leaned over and said, "Do not reply now. Not while you are shaking." He said we would craft a response later, calm and short. But then another message came in. And this one was from my father. "Son, come back. We can explain." And I felt my throat tighten because explain is such a funny word when used by someone who got caught. Explain is what you do when you are late to work, not when you turn your child's trust into confetti. I did not reply. I turned my phone off. And for the first time all night there was silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind where you can hear your own thoughts bumping into each other. Ryan put a blanket on the back of the couch like I was staying, and I was, because my apartment did not feel like mine anymore. It felt like a stage set where someone else had been practicing lines behind my back. I tried to sleep, but my mind kept circling one question. How long? Because what I saw was not something that looked like a sudden mistake. It looked like a decision that had been rehearsed. I got up and walked to Ryan's kitchen, and he was already there making coffee like it was morning even though it was still night. He said, "You are wondering if this started today." I nodded, and he said, "You will find out. But do not go digging like a detective in a bad TV show. Let the attorney guide it. You do not want to accidentally cross a line." Then he added, "Also, you should prepare for the next move." And I asked what next move. And Ryan said, "They will try to control the narrative. Lena will try to make you the problem, and your father will try to make this go away. Because men like him do not apologize. They negotiate." That was when my stomach dropped again. Because I realized I had been thinking like a hurt husband. But I needed to think like a man protecting his future. I went back to the couch, and my phone stayed off. And somewhere in the dark of that night, a new version of me quietly showed up. The version that stops begging for respect and starts requiring it. And I did not know it yet. But by morning, Lena would not be begging me to come home. She would be demanding something. And my father would make an offer that sounded generous, but smelled like a trap. Morning came without permission. The light through Ryan's blinds felt rude, like the day had opinions about what I should do next. My phone was still off, and for a few seconds I pretended my life was just a badly written dream. Then memory caught up like a debt collector. Ryan was already awake, scrolling on his phone with the calm of a man whose world had not imploded overnight. He looked at me and said, "Coffee is ready." And that small normal sentence almost broke me, because normal felt illegal. I turned my phone on, and it immediately started vibrating like it was angry with me. Missed calls, messages, voicemails, Lena, my father, Mark, even my mother. Though hers was just one missed call which somehow felt heavier than all the rest. I did not open anything yet. Ryan stopped me. He said, "Eat first. Your brain negotiates better when it has fuel." So I ate toast like it was a business meeting. Then I sat down and opened Lena's messages. The first ones were panic dressed as concern. "Where are you? Please answer." Then irritation showed up. "You are overreacting." Then the knives came out. "You always do this when things get hard." Then the final one, sent at 3 in the morning, said, "Maybe if you were not so obsessed with proving something, you could actually support your wife." I stared at that line for a long time, because there it was, the thing she had been polishing for years, the belief that my value was a number she had not approved yet. Ryan read it over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. He said, "She just handed you leverage wrapped in honesty." I did not feel victorious. I felt tired, but I saved everything. Then I listened to my father's voicemail. His voice was calm, controlled, the same tone he used with angry customers. "Son, let us not do anything drastic. Adults make mistakes. Families fix things privately. Come by the office and we will talk." And I almost admired the confidence, the assumption that his office was the natural place for my pain. Ryan shook his head and said, "Do not go alone. Do not go at all yet." He said my father was testing whether I would step back into his gravity. I finally listened to my mother's message. It was short, confused. She asked if everything was okay because Lena had called her crying, said I had abandoned her after a misunderstanding, and that was when something inside me clicked into focus. They were already rewriting the story. I told Ryan I needed to send one message, just one, to Lena, something neutral, factual, and he helped me draft it like a press release. I sent, "I know what I saw. I am taking time. Please communicate through email only." And then I muted her. It felt cold, but it also felt like locking a door after a storm. Later that morning, I met the attorney in person, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She listened without interrupting, asked clear questions, and when I finished, she said, "You did the right thing by leaving without confrontation. Infidelity matters, especially with aggravating circumstances." And I said, "You mean my father?" And she nodded once like she had already filed that detail under explosive. She explained the basics: division of assets, spousal support considerations, how intent and behavior could influence outcomes. And when she asked about Lena's income, I told her the truth. Inconsistent, project-based, and she raised an eyebrow and said, "Then her claim that you cannot support her is not going to age well." That was the first time I smiled, just a little, because facts were finally on my side. When I left the office, my phone rang again. Mark this time. I almost ignored it. But curiosity won. He did not start with an apology. He started with logistics. "Dad is freaking out. Mom is a mess. Lena is at the house. And you need to calm down." I told him calmly that I was calm, that I would not be coming back, and that any further communication should go through lawyers. There was a pause. Then he said, "You are really going to do this?" Like I was canceling a dinner reservation. And I said yes, and hung up. That afternoon, Lena sent an email, long, emotional, full of explanations that sounded like excuses wearing makeup. She said it was a moment of weakness. She said she felt neglected. She said she was under pressure. She said my obsession with independence pushed her away. And then she said it. The line that burned everything behind it, she wrote. "Your father understands what it takes to provide, unlike you." And that was it. The fog lifted completely. This was not about one terrible choice. This was about a value system that never matched mine. She wanted security without patience, status without substance, and when she could not get it from me fast enough, she went shopping in my own bloodline. That evening, my father finally sent a message that was not a call. He offered to help financially, to smooth things over, to make sure I was taken care of, as if I was the problem to be managed. And I realized something important. His money had always come with strings. I just had not been the one tangled in them before. I forwarded the message to my attorney, turned my phone off again, and went for a walk alone. The city felt different when you are no longer performing your life for someone else. Every step felt like a small rebellion, and somewhere between the coffee shop and the park, I stopped feeling like a man who had lost everything, and started feeling like a man who had narrowly escaped a future that would have cost him far more than a marriage. The next weeks moved in a strange rhythm, like my life had switched to a different time zone. I stayed at Ryan's place while my attorney handled the formal steps. Papers were filed, accounts were reviewed, timelines became evidence, and emotions were treated like background noise. Lena tried a new tactic when silence did not work. She sent emails that sounded cooperative, reasonable, almost kind. She suggested we meet for coffee like two adults who had simply grown apart. I declined through my lawyer. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because nothing good comes from reopening a wound just to see if it still hurts. Then my father escalated. Not loudly, strategically. He sent messages about family legacy, about how outsiders would not understand, about how this could damage the company if people talked. And there it was again. The assumption that my pain was a public relations issue. My attorney advised no direct contact, so I followed that advice like it was law. Mark tried once more. He showed up at Ryan's place unannounced, stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable like a man who had finally realized money could not buy him out of every conversation. He said Dad wanted to offer a settlement, help with a new place, a new car, even an investment opportunity. All I had to do was keep things quiet. I looked at him and felt oddly calm. I told him I was not for sale, that my silence was not a commodity, and that if Dad wanted peace, he should start with accountability. Mark left without arguing, which told me everything I needed to know. Lena's tone shifted again when cooperation failed. Now she was cold, distant, confident in a way that suggested she believed she still had leverage. She claimed I had been emotionally unavailable, financially controlling, obsessed with proving myself. My attorney dismantled those claims with pay stubs, messages, and a very simple question. If I was so inadequate, why had she stayed 6 years? The answer was silence. Mediation day arrived like a badly planned reunion. Lena did not look at me. She spoke to her lawyer with rehearsed certainty. When money came up, she said it clearly. She deserved more because she expected more, because she married into a wealthy family, and I refused to act like it. The mediator glanced at me, waiting for a reaction. I gave none, because I finally understood something she never would. Wealth is not what you extract from others. It is what you build without selling yourself. The settlement leaned in my favor, not dramatically, but decisively. My income spoke for itself. My restraint helped, and her own words did the rest. When it was over, she looked at me for the first time in weeks and said, "You could have had everything." And I smiled softly and said, "I know," and walked out. Because everything to her had always meant something very small, and for the first time since the barbecue I felt light. Not because I had won, but because I had not lost myself. And that was worth more than any check my father could ever sign. After the papers were signed, the noise slowly faded. No more late-night emails. No more strategic messages pretending to care. Just quiet. The kind that lets you hear who you are when no one is pulling at you. I moved into a small apartment close to work. Nothing flashy, clean lines, good light, a place that felt earned. Ryan helped me carry boxes and joked that I had officially completed the hero's journey because I now owned a houseplant. My job shifted too. Not in title, but in focus. I threw myself into a project that had been waiting for attention. Long hours, clear goals, no emotional negotiations, my manager noticed. A promotion followed. Not dramatic, just deserved, and that felt better than applause. My mother reached out again, this time quietly. She did not defend my father. She did not ask me to forgive. She just said she was sorry I had been hurt. And I thanked her. Because some bridges do not need to be burned to be respected from a distance. My father tried once more. A formal letter. Apologetic in tone. Careful in wording, offering to meet. I did not reply, not out of revenge, but because some conversations come too late to change anything meaningful. I learned that closure is not something other people give you. It is something you decide to stop waiting for. Sometimes at night I thought about the man I was before all this. The one who believed love automatically meant loyalty and family automatically meant safety. I did not feel bitter toward him. I felt proud, because he had values, even if the world tested them. And now I had the same values, just sharper, stronger, earned. I started running in the mornings, not to escape, just to feel my own momentum. And with every step, I felt less like someone who had been betrayed, and more like someone who had been set free. Not by justice or revenge, but by the simple decision to move forward without carrying other people's shame. And that, I realized, was the real inheritance I had chosen all along. Time did what it always does when you stop fighting it. It rearranged things quietly. I stopped checking my phone for messages that would never come. I stopped replaying moments, looking for alternate endings. My life filled in the empty spaces on its own. Weekends became mine again. Simple routines turned into anchors. I cooked meals I actually liked. I laughed more easily. Not because everything was perfect, but because nothing was pretending anymore. People at work saw a difference. They said I seemed lighter, more focused, like someone who finally trusted his own decisions. I never corrected them, because they were right. One evening I ran into someone who knew the story and expected anger, drama, bitterness. I gave them none. Just a calm smile and a subject change. Because the best proof of healing is not explanation. It is indifference. And that was when I understood that what happened no longer defined me. It had refined me, stripped away illusions, left behind something solid, something honest, something mine. I sometimes think about how close I came to accepting a life that was never really mine. A life built on borrowed money, borrowed values, borrowed silence. And I feel grateful for the moment that shattered it. Not because it was painless, but because it was honest. Betrayal has a strange gift. It forces clarity. It shows you who respects you only when it is convenient, and who you are when convenience disappears. I did not rebuild my life to prove anything to my ex or my father or anyone watching from the sidelines. I rebuilt it because self-respect is not loud. It does not announce itself. It simply refuses to live small. I stand on my own now. Not angry, not bitter, not broken, just aware. Aware that dignity is a choice you make every day. Aware that walking away can be an act of strength. And aware that success means very little if it costs you yourself. I did not lose a wife or a father that day. I lost illusions, and in return, I gained something far more valuable. A life that answers only to my own conscience. And for the first time I can say this without irony or sarcasm. I am exactly where I am supposed to be.